Hello and welcome back to the channel. I hope you're all doing well. So today I'll be doing a flip through of my Hobonichi Cousin, which is what I used as my all-in-one journal slash planner in 2025. But first I'm just going to go ahead and remove the cover I have on it and talk through my choices for decorating the cover of the planner itself, as well as the choices I made for the cover. Let's see. So this was my first time in a Hobonichi Cousin, and I kept my decor of the cover pretty simple. Like I have some vellum paper. This was just like craft paper that I had laying around, and my theme for using this planner in 2025 was around memories. So I have two quotes here: memories are better than diamonds and no one can steal them from you, as well as memories are the timeless treasures of the heart. We remember moments, we do not remember days. Take care of all your memories, for you cannot relive them. And that was practically what I used, I guess, as a means to used as my main motivation or driver for planning and journaling in the Hobonichi Cousin throughout the year. So I picked this up while I was in the Tobichi's store in Kyoto. This was my first time using the Hobonichi Cousin. I've done a lot of research prior to picking it up before I decided that that was what I wanted to use for the year. And I just thought it would be better to pick it up in person. By the time I got there weren't exactly a lot of options for covers, and I don't know that I'm the kind of person who's like super picky with covers, so I just went with something simple. I went with this beige cover, but then the cover had this nice print on it that made it look just a little bit, just gave it like a little bit of a pop. And that was why I decided to go with these two. It just also took the choice of having to look for something that I felt fits into my vision of what I wanted a cover to look like later. And I was just able to get all my purchases out of the way that day in the store. For this part of the cover, I can't say that there was something specific that I used it for throughout the year. What has been there as just been kind of rotating on and off. Right now I have some craft paper that I used recently for some spreads, and I haven't had a chance to take them out, so I still have them here. I have some sticker freebies from Etsy shops that I bought stuff from throughout the year, and at some point I considered using like a key for tasks in the journal or as in the planner portion of the journal, but I didn't really follow through with that. I have a photo card of a member of 17. I just like having one of those on me in any of my journals. I'm missing one of these pins, but I'd use it to like hold, like if I was in a month of the journal, for example, if I was in March and I'd already tabbed it, but I wanted to be able to easily go to a very specific day without flipping too much, I just use that pin to hold all the days I already journaled and be able to easily flip something over. But that's why I had that. I have some stickers here that I printed recently. They're like alphabet clip-ins from the Coffee Monsters Co. Let's see. That's everything for the front, and in the back I usually just have my pencil board. I used the Spy Family pencil board throughout the year. You can see that it has gotten quite a bit of use out of it throughout the year, and I really enjoyed having that. There's this nice sticker here. Those are pages that I cut out of the planner pretty recently. I guess we'll see that more in depth when I get to that portion of the planner. And what else did I have here? I have this. I feel like there was something else that was meant to be here. There was a green envelope I had here, and these were all things that I had taped into my planner, but I had to remove and move to the back because it started making the planner really chunky, and it got hard to write in some parts of it, and that's why I have them in the back now. But I guess I've yapped enough, and I'll just start with flipping through the planner properly. This has moved on me a little bit, but I think that looks perfect. Okay, that looks perfect. I just have some random vinyl stickers here. So there's one of 2 characters from a ℍ𝕆𝕒 series. ℍ𝕆𝕒 cell-saving system. So 𝕍𝕠𝕔𝕚𝕒 and ℍ𝕆𝕒. I love this Born to Slay First to Work sticker. It's so cute. This is one of 𝕍𝕉𝕚. I think 𝕍𝕉𝕚 is my favorite Sanrio character. Hello Kitty, there's a Cozy Reader Club, and then 𝕤𝕚𝕟, which is the kind of the mascot for the K-pop group 17 here as well. I just put together like a quick like collage of 2025 to cover whatever was underneath here. I think it just says Hobonichi Cousin here, and I wanted to cover that up. The calendar, I don't know that I really used this that much, even though I have some dates marked off here. These were my paydays that I marked off here. I don't think I referred back to the calendar proper throughout the year because I ended up moving what I marked off here to my monthly sections. So I didn't really have much of a use for this. The perpetual calendar, where you have like a space for every day of the year, I just used that to do like a summary of everything that I journaled about or everything that I had going on in the daily section. And I actually managed to use that throughout the year. Some months were much heavier than others. Like at the top here, I'd mark off like 3 important things I wanted to try to achieve in the year. I also tried to, this is where I marked my period as well. So if you see a red dot throughout the perpetual calendar, those were the days I got my period throughout the year. And at the bottom here, I was using it to track pre-orders as well as Patreon subscriptions. So I have a couple Patreon subscriptions where I get like monthly benefits, and I'll use it to track what the benefit for that month was, the day it shipped, as well as the day I received it, and just little things like that. You can see here in April, I actually have a couple of pre-orders because I had to move from my apartment, and for some of them I had to change the address on them. So I just thought it was probably in my best interest to note down some of those things. But otherwise, I don't know that there is anything else special going on here. Oh, I have some red stars, maybe just for days that I wanted to remember something that I wrote down on those days. But yeah, that's pretty much how I used it throughout the year. Nothing really changed. Today is exactly Christmas Day, so I still have the 25th through the 31st to fill out in the perpetual calendar, and that's pretty much it. I did start using the cousin a little bit in December after I picked it up. So I tested out what I wanted to use the monthly sections for, as well as stickers and all of that good stuff. But that was also a section of the planner that I think I used pretty consistently throughout the year. So I know some people usually can figure out what they want to use this for, but this was actually pretty easy for me. I was able to use it as like a way to schedule my social media posts between Instagram and YouTube, as well as birthdays. And right now it's just kind of messy and all over the place, but over time I tried to do like a little bit of color coding. So in January here, I had red for YouTube, blue for Instagram. I had like a purple pen for like self-care items that I was trying to schedule. That really didn't carry through for the rest of the year, as well as cleaning, another thing that didn't really carry through the rest of the year. It mostly worked for me to schedule social media posts, as well as track people's birthdays. And like I said, I moved the payday sections from the calendar in the front here to the monthly section, so I have those here. And yeah, that was pretty much how I use the monthly sections. I'm trying to see if there was anything else that I probably added to the monthly sections over time. Like in February, I had some important items and some events that I wanted to plan for. In March, I had to renew my vehicle registration as well as my driver's license. So I did write that down in the monthly section. But otherwise, I mostly used it for the same thing. Yeah. There isn't really much else to see there. And once I already filled it up with everything that I wanted to achieve that month, or I wanted to post, as well as birthdays I wanted to remember for the month, I go in with stickers to fill up any empty space. I didn't really do that in August now, looking back at it, but I got back to it in September, October. In October, I tried to track my sleep. That didn't work out very much. November, same thing. I didn't even do a single day of tracking. And in December, although I filled in like some posts as well as birthdays here, I haven't gone in with any stickers just yet. I don't know if I'm going to remember to do that, but the purpose of scheduling like my social media posts as well as birthdays that I want to remember is still pretty consistent here as well. And for the monthlies, you get like January through March of 2026, which I don't plan to use because I will have moved into a new journal by then. But for the weekly sections, this was definitely the section I struggled with the most in this journal. And after a while, I just gave up on using it. Right here. I think I used it for about 6 months. So through, well, maybe not 6 months, probably about 8 months. I used it through like part of August, and after a while, I just stopped using it. So those pages are like pretty clean, as you can see. Yeah, but at the beginning of the year, I just used it for like some stationery swatches that I'd gotten recently. I also used it to do like a key of some tracking that I wanted to do in my reading journal. So this is for my reading tracker as well as my year in pixels. So my reading journal is actually right here, so I can show you what that looked like. So this was my reading tracker, and I did like a monthly tracking thing where I had like a color for different months, and that's what I have right here, as well as my year in pixels. This was another tracker that I had in my reading journal. My year in pixels, I also used the key, or I had the key right here, and I think this is probably the most filled weekly spread that I have in the entire weekly section. There were some things that I did do consistently, like tracking daily habits as well as my sleep. And for a minute there, I thought I wanted to fast a little bit more consistently because I have IBS and really terrible digestion. And for the most part, fasting seemed to work for me, but I just couldn't stay consistent with tracking my sleep and my fast because I have to be conscious of when I stop eating to know how long I fasted for. Same thing for sleeping. I have to be conscious of when I went to bed and when I woke up to know how long I slept for. But after some time, it just became too much of a hassle to try to pay attention to some of those things. And what I see a lot of people using the weekly sections for is like blocking, like basically like time blocking, since you have like time from, I think like 4 a.m. to, yeah, like from 4 a.m. to 4 a.m. So you have like an entire full day, and you can just use it to block off what you're doing in those chunks of time throughout the day. But as someone who had a 9-to-5 job for the most part of the year, that wasn't really a fun thing for me to do. But I played around with using the weekly spreads for different things. So the habits were probably the most consistent aspect of the weekly sections, and I try to use some stickers here and there. I have a lot of stickers, and it's just fun to me to try to put them in this journal. So like right here, I usually tried to film like over the weekend, and I made note of all the things that I wanted to film like over the weekend. But aside from that, there wasn't much else to put in the weekly sections. Like here, I tried to mark off like my work day. I added things like maybe what I ate throughout the day, but it's not something I really saw myself doing consistently. And there were weeks where I actually managed to do all of my tracking. I'm just gonna flip through this fast because like I said, this wasn't something that I was actually able to stay consistent with because I never did figure out a method of using it that worked for me. I was traveling this week and it didn't feel worth it to try to come back to fill it up, so I just left it blank, which I think is a very helpful mindset to have with planning and journaling. In general, if you're using like a dated planner and you miss some days, just be fine with empty pages, I think. And once I got over that hurdle, I think the idea of journaling in general just became more fun for me. We're already in May here. This was right around when I got laid off, so I had even less and less to put in the weekly sections. Although like looking through it now, some of them aren't like terrible. This is probably the last full week that I did, and the rest of what you see in July and August are probably like attempts. I even have like penciled in like maybe things I wanted to put down, but I never really did go back to, and that was it for the weekly sections. Now the daily section was where I did the bulk of my planning and journaling in the Hobonichi Cousin, and I had such a good time with it. I struggle with anxiety and depression and had been going to therapy or seeing a therapist consistently at this point for about 2 years now. And that was very helpful. I used to journal like on and off in like different notebooks, but just having one place to do all of that, as well as in conjunction with my planning as well as memory keeping, I felt was really, really helpful for me. Going for like doctor's visits or even appointments with my therapist, and just being able to pull my journal like, oh, this was how I felt on this particular day, and being able to take notes about certain things that she said and how I could implement them into my life, I also found to be very helpful. But I wouldn't say that I necessarily had a structure on how I used the daily pages. I did have like a rough structure, but then the rest of the space was just free space for me to use however I wanted, which I will discuss as I flip through the pages. For the first couple of days, I was just really starting to settle into the planner, so I just used the empty space as free space to use however I wanted to, and I stuck some things in there to really represent whatever was going on in my day. But around the 6th, I decided to start putting like my media at the top in that section where it has like the boxes where you can tick off things. So like what I'm reading, what I'm watching, what I'm listening to. And then on the side, I started adding my task list as well. So that was a structure that I implemented for myself, and I was able to carry on throughout the year. So media at the top, task list on the side, and then the rest of the space is just free for me to use however I choose to. And that was pretty much how I used the daily pages for the rest of the year. Now that I've talked through that, I don't know, there's a lot of daily pages to flip through. Like, should I be telling you what exactly was going on those days? Like, this was one of my favorite spreads of the year. It's not like super full or even like super colorful, although I do love pink. Pink is my favorite color. I love it with like baby blue, but this comeback from a unit of the K-pop group I love 17, which is going to be like a running theme throughout this video, but this comeback just made me so happy. I think this was the first video I posted on YouTube in 2025, and it was like a tour of my 𝕤𝕚𝕚 bookcase, and I printed out a picture of that to put in my journal. Well, I guess I can just talk about all the different ways I try to fill the empty spaces in the journal. So printing out different things that reflected like what was going on in my life was a way that I did that, as well as just writing about what was going on. I did a lot of happy mail. I think this was from a pen pal / bookstagram friend that I made on Instagram, and we've just swapped things back and forth because we also realized that we love stationaries between each other. This was a particularly dark day for me, so hello darkness, my old friend. I wasn't feeling too great that day. There are just some things that I can use to point out, or I guess notice, like, yeah, I wasn't 100% in terms of my mood that day. I also tried to use like colored pens here and there just to brighten up the atmosphere of the journal. Like, I have a receipt from going to the post office stuck in here. I think I was shipping something to my brother here. Yes, I did make a note about it. I bought some things for my brother that he wanted me to pick up for him while I was in Japan, and I didn't get a chance to ship them until like halfway into January, even though I took the trip in like November / December. I tried scrapbooking for a bit in the journal as well, still going on with like the theme of like colored pens, tracking my media and my task lists as well. I have this box right here. I think it was from a game that they were playing on Going 17, and I tried to play it as well, and that's why I have that box in there. Then I have like birthday spreads of like characters in here as well. I say characters, but 𝕤𝕚𝕚 is very much a real person, and I just love him. So I did like a collage for him in my journal. Let's see. I have this thingy that usually comes in like fortune cookies stuck in here. I saw this painting somewhere on YouTube, and it's called The Wounded Angel by Hugo Semberg. I think I read something in the comments that really stood out to me, and I decided that I wanted to put this in my journal. Let's see. This came up on YouTube Shorts while I was doom scrolling. Apparently, when it was initially painted, the artist refused to name it, leaving it open to interpretation. The painting shows two young boys carrying an angel with wings. She's hunched over as they carry her away and holding on to a bunch of snowdrops. Her head and eyes are bandaged and her wings blooded. It's a painting that immediately invites introspection, and one comment in particular on that short stood out to me. One of her couriers is looking forward. So the one in front is looking forward in whatever direction they're carrying her, but the other is looking at the viewer, like whoever is viewing the painting, with an almost judgeful look on his face. That specific comment mentioned that the painting could be interpreted as the boys mourning the loss of their innocence, represented by the angel, and the boy is judging the viewers because the world is responsible for the loss of that innocence. And it was just so powerful, and I decided to put that in my journal. I think there's probably something on this next page that I don't want to show, so I'm just going to flip over because I can't remember what exactly it is. Yeah, I did a lot of writing here, and right around here I started playing with like using prompts and using that as a way to maybe talk about myself, or just write like more streams of consciousness type entries in my journal. Here's a birthday of a character that I did an entry for, 𝕬𝕠𝕟 from the 𝕤𝕚𝕝 novel, Grandmaster of Demonic Cultivation, one of my favorite characters of all time. Let's see. Today drained me. That's another day that wasn't great. And this is a print from a low tide and twilight spread that I did in my 2024 reading journal. I don't think I managed to use that print specifically, so I just put it in my journal here. I don't know why I decided to put so much random stuff on this page. And this day was or these 2 days, I guess, were another pretty like emotionally heavy day. So this was meant to be Moonbin's birthday. I keep saying these names and they might not make sense to someone who's watching this, but he is from a K-pop group and he took his own life a few years back now. The 26th of January would have been his birthday. He's also really close friends with Boo-seung-gun, this guy right here. So that especially made me sad when I found out that it happened. Yeah. And here I started playing around with using like different mediums in my journal. So like this tulip doodles, I think it was from watching a video of the Coffee Monster's skull on YouTube. Here's another 𝕒𝕆𝕚𝕒. I have a print of what I was watching and reading. I was reading Nana and Sketch, which is a BL manhwa. I started listening to the Bluest Eye. So you see little things like that. I also tried like travel journaling. So these were things that I probably tried to do in like separate notebooks and journals in the past. Like writing about my feelings was a separate journal. My travel journal was a separate journal. My planner was a separate notebook. And yeah, I'm just able to put all of it in one place here. I started covering, like doing my the empty page that you have in the beginning of every month. I started trying to do like a cover spread for each month. I don't really like how this turned out, and I had some like a little bit of feathering with this marker right here, but I still like the color purple that I used. And another thing that I started doing right here was at the beginning of each month, I'd make a list of everything I wanted to try to read that month, and I'll mark it off as I read them throughout the month. This is a wrapping paper from my Christmas gift from my sister. I think this was probably the first time I saw her in 2025 on the 1st of February. So she's a surgical resident and she just has a really busy schedule. Even though we live in the same state, sometimes it's just hard to get a hold of her. And she gifted me like a bottle of the 𝕬𝕼𝕬𝕝 Girl of Now perfume, which I absolutely love, by the way. Let's see, what else do we have here? I'm just flipping through to see if anything really stands out that I probably want to mention. That was another really hard day for me. You'll probably see a lot of those here and there. Here I started making notes about like I think it was a post I saw on Instagram, and someone was talking about like being in your 30s and certain things that stood out to her, and it was spread across like multiple days. So for each one of those days, for however long she did it, I wrote about it. So this was day 1, day 2, day 3 and 4. Is that day 5? No, that's day 5, day 6, day 7, day 8, day 9, day 10, 11, and 12. So it was 12 days. and I try to block out a section of the daily entries to make note of all of that. I also tracked like new releases or maybe something that came up on Instagram that particular stood out to me, and I just paste that in my journal. The thing with pasting things or printing things that I wanted to put in my journal though was I did have to print them out, and I bought a printer specifically for that, but also for my reading journal because I tend to print things to put in my reading journal a lot. But if there's just like one thing that I want to put in there, I don't necessarily want to just print out that one thing and put it in my journal. So I always wait for a lot of things to accumulate at the same time and print them together. Sorry, I'm not exactly even sure how I want to talk through some of these pages, but I'll just keep flipping through to see if there's anything that stands out. I was reading I'm Not Jessica Chan here. I really love this book, and here was an entry for birthdays of two members of, you guessed it, the K-pop group 17. So Do-kyung and Vernon, they have the same birthday. Let's see, what else do we have here? This were some pretty also terrible days. Yeah, I started doing like a lot of philosophy research on like the desire not to exist and just some other stuff like that. That's a self-deprecating laugh if I ever heard one. Yeah, occasionally I'd put some like quotes that I saw that really stood out to me. This one, the deeper that sorrow carves itself into your being, the more joy you can contain. I thought that was really interesting. Stationery swatches. I have some fountain pen ink samples here that I picked up from Goulet Pens. I was trying to see what company I picked them up from here, and that's my cover spread for March. Let's try to make some more room here. Another 𝕒𝕆𝕚𝕒, more collagen. The next couple of spreads I think were pretty simple. I did lots of writing, but they actually ended up being some of my favorite in the journal. And I started trying to make use of like different elements to like maybe separate the journal or like use more of my stationery. So like using washi tape to maybe separate a page in between, maybe writing about my feelings, or using a prompt to answer like a very specific question. And I still did that TBR at the beginning of the month. Let's see. Right here, I think this was maybe my first physical arc from the year from HarperCollins as a publisher. I really enjoyed that. That wasn't something I wanted to show. I lost a family member and we had all gone back for her funeral at that point in the year, so I just put like the what do you call it, the paper from her service in my journal, and I did write about it, a somber day. Even though it was such a sad time, my birthday was on the 17th, and because we all happened to be at home for a funeral, I was able to spend my 30th birthday with all my nuclear family, which isn't a chance that I usually get to celebrate my birthday with them. But ironically, even though we're all there for a funeral, we're able to spend that time together. Let's see. March is nearly over. I have more fountain pen ink swatches here. And this was a freebie. This sticker, this freaking adorable frog sticker was from a shop that I bought something from on Etsy, and I thought it was so cute. Right around here I started doing like a lot more pasting stuff in my journal. I watched the Chinese drama The Best Thing with a friend, and I loved it. Looking back now, I think this was probably my favorite Chinese drama that I watched this year. This was also right around when the BL manhwa, The Melting Point, came out, and I also started body reading it with a friend. I don't know how, if you can even call it body reading, because it was more of like a weekly serialization at that point. And now the first season is over and we're waiting for it to come back. Let's see, I started using watercolors in my journal here. I say I started, like, more like I tried using watercolors. It's not like I didn't use it very often, but I just wanted to see how it will perform on the paper, even though we had been having problems with the paper quality at that point. Cover spread for April. I really liked this. It was very springy. I loved it, actually. Let's see. This was my mom's birthday. We call her Boomer Barbie. I just think that is so cute. I got laid off in April, and my last day at work wasn't until the end of June. It is now December. I still don't have a job. Now, granted, I didn't start looking immediately. I wasn't doing too great mentally when I got laid off, and I honestly just wasn't in the headspace to go right back to looking for work. I was also trying to address some physical illnesses, so I really did just take the time to recover mentally and physically before I started looking for work, probably around like August. But yeah, hopefully something works out soon. Yeah, that's not what you're here for. And I got laid off right before I went on a trip, so we have some travel journaling here. I went to Spain with my sister and a friend. So we flew into Barcelona. We were there for 2 nights, and then we got on a boat cruise with the Royal Caribbean, Allure of the Seas, that went to Spain, Italy, and France. It was such a lovely trip. I highly recommend just doing trips like that with what's it called, through a cruise, because it takes away a lot of the planning. You know, you're going to be in one place, room and board as well as food is covered, but you still have a chance to explore multiple places in that one trip, and it's just much cheaper than trying to plan visiting all of those locations by yourself. So we were in Barcelona, we were in Marseille, France, in Mallorca, in Spain, and yeah, it was just really nice. I also started watching The First Frost here. I think this was right around when I did a review of Legend of Exorcism. It was already out by that time. I really enjoyed that series this year. Lots of wrap-up type posts that I'm trying to do for the end of 2025 with my reading, journaling, and all of that stuff. These were characters from Aizawa's The Last Quarter. A lot more different from what I expected from her as an author, but I actually really enjoyed it. Let's see, what else do we have here? More collaging. I think sometimes I just take notes, like maybe I'm watching a YouTube video and it's an interesting topic to me. I take notes about it. Yeah. And if I didn't have much to write, I'll fill up the space with like washi tape or like PET tape like I did here. And in May before, May was the month when I really decided to start using daily prompts. And this one, I think I printed after I saw it on, I can't remember where I saw it, but I formatted it on Canva to fit like a very specific portion of this entry, so I had space to put other things on there. On May 1st, I finally was able to get a slot for the 𝕬𝕆𝕶𝕬𝕝 stationery subscription. So I was really excited about that. And I actually managed to use the daily prompts every day in May. I don't know if there's anything else that really stood out there. I tried to do something different here. I think this was probably a spread that stands out from everything else that I've used in my journal so far. But I got a subscription from this artist, and I can't even remember their name right now, that I found on Instagram as well. It's Mushy Works. I'm going to put the name on the screen, but I really love their style. So I have a couple of things from them that I just tried to use here and there. There was a monthly spread in the front where I used stickers from their shop. So all of these are actually from the same artist as well. But I really liked how that turned out. Here's another physical ARC that I received in 2025 from Tundra Books this time. It was a YA romance novel. This was a 𝕤𝕚𝕚 novel that I buddy read with some friends. Stationery swatches. You see like common themes in how I try to use my daily pages. So like prompts here, what I'm watching or reading. This is Reply to Kids, The Scarlet Alchemist. At some point here, I tried to do like a daily calligraphy practice. That didn't last very long, although it's something I think I'd like to give a try again in the future. So I have that here, 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 here. So for some of these, I probably like looked at something as a reference before attempting, but here I free-handed it and it just didn't look as nice. So I was definitely feeling a little bit too confident there. These were free-handed as well. Then I went back to using references here, not here. Oh, I made a note about 17's 10th anniversary album right there. This was a new word that I saw in a book I was reading. It was not that bad. I wish I could tell you that I actually can read this word out by itself, but I cannot. It was the title of a chapter in the book. I remember that very much. So, oh, I made note about the pronunciation. So it's flaxina. Oh my God, it's already so hard. 𝕬𝕚𝕚𝕚𝕚. The action or habit of estimating something as worthless. Very interesting. This was also my sister's birthday. And a new medium that I tried in my journal here. These are acrylic paint markers. I tried doing like a watercolor cover spread here. It turned out horribly. I'd already done a trial on another notebook in like my what do you call those things, like my sketchbook. Oh my God, I don't know why it took me so long to remember that. And it turned out beautifully, but in trying to replicate it here, it just wasn't working out. And yeah, I wanted to cover it up, but I just left it. So some things remain the same. My TBR for the month, I was still watching The First Frost. Oh my God, it took me so long to finish that series. Not because I wasn't enjoying it, but I would just take like huge chunks of breaks in between watching it. But then eventually when the story picked up, I just watched the rest of it in one go, like the second half. Here was where ℚ𝕻𝕚 started again. Another thing that I'm probably mentioning, like, it should make sense to people, but maybe it doesn't. But this was basically like a almost like a reality TV show that the K-pop boy group 17 that I keep talking about was on, and it aired for about 2 weeks. So I was really excited about that, and that's why I stuck it in my journal. This is a member from the same boy group, one of my favorite ones, Jonghan. I think he had just recently finished his military training after enlisting earlier in the year. Yeah. I was reading 𝕬𝕝𝕬𝕚𝕚 here, and the volumes will have like this really cute doodles of 𝕤𝕚𝕚𝕚 or 𝕬𝕚𝕚𝕚, whatever you want to call her, throughout the pages, and I tried to replicate some of them in my journal. I actually had some of them in the weekly spreads here, if I can remember. No, I don't have to remember. It was in June. So if I go to June, I'm probably going to find some of them. Yeah, right there. I didn't complete them, but yeah. Okay. Birthday of a member of the boy group 17. This was something that I did quite frequently in my journal. My very first stationery subscription from the Coffee Monster Skull, and these were swatches of the washi tapes that came with the subscription. I went with a pen pal subscription, which comes with like washi tapes, a couple of sticker sheets, a washi card, and some other things. I think that's like the highest level of the membership. At this point, I was trying not to make it a habit to do like frequent stationery hauls. So having like a stationery subscription where I knew I'd get like some new fun stationery from a creator that I really enjoyed their content, but was also sort of a small business, was something that was fun for me. I also started doing like tea journals in my journal around here, and this was something that I saw from Helen from the Coffee Monster Skull, actually. And I think right around here is when I started using the prompts from her website as well. So she has a portion of her website where she has like daily prompts that you can use throughout the year. Although if I'm remembering correctly, she won't be doing that next year. Although there are some like prior years with daily prompts that I can use next year. So I think I'm going to try to stick with that. I have a note here that I finally showered, which is TMI and also pretty gross, but when I'm in a depressive state, my hygiene is always one of the first things to go, and I'll just be stuck in bed in my house rotting without getting in the shower. But then I'll finally take a shower and feel so much better. The depression doesn't go away with the shower. I wish it does, but it's usually very helpful to just feel clean. Yeah. I don't know. Is this even fun for anyone who's watching it? I'm trying to see if there's anything that stands out in what I did in my journals here. This was my last day at my job, and pretty much for the rest of the year, I did not have a job. I don't have a job right now. I'm hoping by early next year. I'm interviewing for a couple of roles right now, and I'm hoping that one of them works out. July 4th. I really wasn't feeling very patriotic, so I have a note about fuck this stupid country instead. Ha 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 ha. Happy mail. What did I get here? I got some skincare from Yes Style. I can't remember what I picked up. Oh, paint shopping. I moved in with my sister in July. Was it in July? No, in August. And I painted the room that I moved into. So I went paint shopping to pick the color of paints that I wanted to use for my bedroom in her house. That's what that was about. 𝕒𝕕𝕚𝕚, another anime character whose birthday I wrote about in my note. 𝕒𝕚𝕚. I'm a rep for a book box this year, Unplugged book box, and I got the very first one on the 16th of July. It was the contemporary romance book box. Very cute. I almost feel like my journaling got a lot more colorful and creative after I got laid off. Okay, right around here was when I was moving, and it got so busy, much busier than I expected, because I just accumulated a lot of stuff in my apartment that I didn't think it was going to be that time consuming to pack up and move my stuff. So I moved some of my stuff into storage, and then I moved the rest of it into my sister's apartment, and I couldn't journal on those days, and I had to go back to backfill it. I saw someone do this on the Facebook page for the Coffee Monsters Co. So I just did something similar here, where I filled up like the very top part with like bold letters, and then I wrote at the bottom. Yeah, that was the end of July, and in August I started living with my sister. I'm gonna try to move through these pages faster. I think at this point I will probably already identified all the different ways I tried to use my journal. Character birthdays here as well. There are probably some other days that will stand out more than others that I'll try to talk about. So like right here, I was traveling and I did like a Dutch door right here because I knew that I probably will be more on the move and I wouldn't have time to write as much, and I decided to just cut down the page. Yeah. And I used the letters I have here, I think were cut down from like magazines that I got in the mail. It actually turned out really nice in this anonymous letter like kind of way. So I think that's something I'm going to try to implement a lot more in the future. Rather than buying the sticker letters, actually creating like my own set of like letters from magazines and whatever posts comes in the mail. I've seen someone do that on YouTube, and they actually have like an organizer where they have like a section for different letters that they can pick from whenever they're journaling. I use watercolor here as well. So these were a couple like stationery storage pouches that I saw online that I thought were super cute, but they were also pretty pricey. But I drew them in my journal in hopes of maybe crocheting something similar for myself. So this is a compact bonsai bag that I saw on Rocky Paper Scissors Co. account, but it is $99. This is a storage pouch, I think for like pens and stuff like that. I saw it on someone's account on YouTube, and I believe a shop that I've actually bought some stationery from in the past had this on their website. Did I write that down? Simply Gilded. Yes, it was from Simply Gilded, but that is $45. I can probably make that with like 2 skeins of yarn. So no, I would not be buying that. September. This was planner day for Sterling ink, the planner that I decided to go with for September, and I had a lot to say about that. It was also the day I got my Q3 subscription for the pen pals, the Coffee Monsters Co. subscription. So I have some swatches for the washi tape that came in that subscription. Going back to flipping through these pretty fast. I also traveled in September, so we're coming up on another travel journal section. So I was going to Texas here. and I cut down the pages again. I was traveling for about a week there, but I don't know that there is anything else new to see here of how I use the daily pages. October. Oh, Jonghan's birthday. I added like a tip in from one of the pages that I cut out to write something that I witnessed on feminine rage, and I have a note on that in the back. I was also traveling here. I think I started traveling on Monday, but I decided not to cut down these pages because I was visiting a cousin here, and I was mostly at home with her and her kids while I was visiting them. So I still had time to journal here, and that's why I didn't cut down the pages. Then I went to New York by myself. I was only there for about not even up to 72 hours, and I was going to like stationery shops. I also visited the TGCF cafe, basically going to places where I decided to carry my journal everywhere with me, so I actually had the time to use the planner while I was moving around, and I didn't feel the need to cut down the pages for that trip. So yeah, this is another Mushy Works spread. Wow, a year is such a long time. I'm pretty sure this video is almost an hour long by this point, but you can see how chunky the planner has gotten and how hard it is to write on the left side of it by now. And I haven't even gotten to the sections in the back that I also managed to use. Q4 subscription. I was having a really bad day that day, but I came home to this package and it just brightened my day so much. I hit 2K followers on Instagram. Yay, that was really exciting. I had like an influx of followers after I posted a flip through of my reading journal on Instagram in November. And finally, December. This wasn't a subscription package, but just a couple of kits that I picked up for setting up my 2026 planners and journals. I don't know if you can see that, but in this really light blue marker, I made a note about the fact that I cried that day. New BL Manhwa, Blossoms of the Night, White Night, from Brothers Without a Tomorrow, one of my favorite BL authors. I'm really enjoying that. My Apple Music Wrapped. There isn't really much else to mention here. Oh, I lied. Oh my god, this was the day we found out that Yona of the Dawn is going to be getting a second season, and shortly after the manga ended on the 19th. I really love this fountain pen ink. Although when I was trying to pick up a full bottle of it for myself, it wasn't in stock anywhere where I was planning to buy it from. This is Diamine's Autumn Oak. I'm still going to try to get my hands on it. It is so beautiful. Oh my god. And that brings me to the very last few days of December. So today is the 25th. I started traveling on the 22nd. And I will be gone till the end of the year, so I just cut down those pages because I don't really foresee myself using the full page to do anything. I also couldn't decide what stickers or like washi tapes or stationery, like decorative stationery, I wanted to take with me, so I haven't decorated any of these pages beyond probably what I put down before I started traveling. So some of the pages are just empty. And I'm probably just going to be doing a lot of writing unless I pick up something that I want to use on those pages. But that is pretty much it for December. I didn't use a lot of pages in the back. For a minute there, I thought I was going to try to use these blank pages for like quarterly recaps of what happened in my life, but that didn't work out quite as I planned it. I never intended to use the timetable, this graph paper, or the favorites here. But for my 100, I started doing like books I'd like to read, and I have 87 on it so far. You might be looking at it and wondering like, wow, that's a lot of books, but I actually didn't even use this section a whole lot. I only used it when I remembered. That is to say that I have way more than 87 books that I've added to my TBR just in 2025. So that is absolutely crazy. The only other page I used in the back here was the wish list or the gifts list, and I used it to create like a wish list for myself of things that I want. The ones that I did get from people I marked off, which was just this one, or maybe there were other things that I got from people that I just haven't written. Okay, I got the DJI Osmo Pocket for myself, so that's gone as well. I will fill that out later, but I also used the addresses for a couple of important addresses, but that was pretty much how I used my Hobonichi Cousin in 2025. I know this was a very long video, so if you stuck out to the end, thank you for sticking out and watching the video. I hope you are able to get some ideas of how to use your planner or your journal in 2026. And let me know what planners or journals you plan to use or are planning to use in 2026. Whatever day you find yourself watching this, make it a great one, and I will see you in the next one. Bye.